Thank you, Chair Jamel, President of the Central Committee for the National Iraqi Project. And now we'll open up to questions from journalists. Please state who you are before asking your question, please. May the peace of God be upon you. Elmed Fari, France 24 in France. My question is for Cher. What is the mechanism in this new project so as to attract Iraqis? How will you urge Iraqis in Iraq to take part in this formation that you have just set up today? First of all, those who are here in Paris are amongst the founding members of this National Iraqi Project. 350 Iraqis, approximately, who took part in setting up this formation. Unfortunately, over 200 Iraqis were unable to obtain visas to come and attend here. Those who are present here and the 200 that are still over there are active members of the Iraqi society, representing many components of Iraqi society. People from Basra, representatives from Baghdad, and other regions. We will rely on these people who are part of our project to speak out about our project. In our project, we accept all Iraqis who wish to take Iraq out of the situation it is in. We rely on our members within Iraq to spread our message. And as I said, we are open to all Iraqis. Your name, please. Hilal Mohammed, channel NRT Al Arabiya. Mr. President, you spoke of an international conference. Do you have international states or stakeholders that are ready to help you organize that conference and to take part in helping to solve the Iraqi crisis? Thank you for your question. We have been endeavoring to organize this international conference. I've been doing so for 2 years now through PAFI, the organization. For 2 years now, this organization that we set up in Riga, well, it has been seeking to contact the international community and its representatives. What is specific about the Iraqi crisis and what makes it so complex and difficult to solve is that those who are dealing with the Iraqi case do not realize to what extent it is a complex matter. As I said before, the problem is no longer only a problem for Iraqis. This crisis is of relevance. It impacts the entire international community. Thus, we recently considered that the international community must be sensitized and we must present to it the true face of Iraqi society. The international community has been working with the Iraqi political classes for years, but this political class does not represent Iraq. It has been unable to solve the Iraqi crisis. It was unable to protect Iraqis. All throughout the efforts carried out by the political classes, many Iraqi villages were destroyed. Many Iraqis have become even more impoverished. This is why, as Iraqis, we are entitled to speak directly and call upon the international community directly. As an Iraqi, I wonder why there's an international conference for Syria, for Yemen, for Libya, and not for Iraq. And therefore, I, as an Iraqi, I want the Iraqi situation to be known to the international community so that it can help us to find the solution. We hope that this international conference will encompass all stakeholders who can help us to reach a solution. Thank you. Do you have any other questions? Ayesh Del Raji from Al Jazeera. The question is for President Sheikh Jamal Adari. Your preparatory work for this meeting saw a lot of international pressure. Could you tell us, for you, what is the future of this Iraqi national project? How do you see its future? First, we chose Paris because Paris is important in the history of Iraq. Remember France's position in 2002 and 2008. We know that France stood up against the invasion of Iraq in 2003. As a result, this is why we're here in Paris, so that we can try to remedy the errors committed since 2003. We have made great efforts in order to organize this meeting, and as you said, there was a lot of pressure by many parties, the Iraqi Ministry of Foreign Affairs in particular, which exerted pressure on French authorities to prevent our meeting from being held. It also sent instructions to its ambassador and sent an envoy to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Iraq to prevent this meeting from being hosted. But we were able to organize this meeting nevertheless, and we're now kicking off this project with the hope that it will be successful.
Asil Tabara from France Press. What is your position with regard to the current Iraqi government? Do you consider it to be legitimate or do you consider it illegitimate? Thank you. Our position concerning the current Iraq political situation in Iraq has been extensively discussed among ourselves, and for us, the current political process in Iraq is very problematic. We've talked about its legitimacy, not legitimate, and because the government was created in 2003 under the occupation, it is in that sense illegitimate. But that's behind us now. For us, the fact is that the political process is now failing. So, should we be negotiating with the current Iraqi government? Maybe. But the main thing is for us that now we are going to be addressing the international community because we no longer believe in the possibility of succeeding with the current political process in Iraq. You have half of Iraq which is occupied, you have demonstrations everywhere, all the security issues, south, north, and there is a political blockage in Baghdad between the different political currents. There's a problem between the central authority and then Iraqi Kurdistan. The fact is the political process in Iraq has run into a dead end. And this political process also is based on a religious distribution of seats that we do not believe with. Mr. Ahmed Zawi, when electing your entity, have you looked at the career of your various members? Were there any among you who were members of the old regime? Because such information is important for Iraqis and useful. And also recently, I beg your pardon. There's a lot of contradictory information concerning the members of your project. Some have said that they were Islamists. So, could you tell us a bit more about the members of your committee? Before organizing our meeting, it's true that there were a lot of rumors going around and also a lot of lies concerning the members of our committee. But all that is not important. We are refusing to discriminate against any Iraqi citizen. All Iraqis are equal. All those present here are all Iraqis or all patriots, and they're all here because they want to rebuild Iraq. Consequently, those who are present here can only be called Iraqi, nothing else. That's the only way we can describe them. Mr. Ali, the floor is yours. I am Ali Jabri. I represent a European press agency, and I have 3 questions for Sheikh Ad-Dari. Since 2003, there have been a lot of opposition forces to the Iraqi regime, and now you're launching this new committee. Now, in what way are you different from other opposition forces in Iraq who have been there for many years? That was my first question. Second question is, there is a lot of accusations concerning you that we read on the social networks, and the fact that you are essentially being supported by international forces who are seeking to undo the anti-terrorist struggle in Iraq. Another question. In Iraq, there's been a lot of popular revolts in the provinces and in Baghdad itself. And young Iraqis are weekly taking part in these demonstrations. What is your position with respect to this? As an opposition movement, are you communicating with these young people who are daily and weekly taking to the streets to demonstrate against the corruption of the current Iraqi government? Well, to answer your first question, what distinguishes us is the following point. First of all, we have a national Iraqi project which is open to all. We do not define ourselves as a party. We are a project, a national project, and as such, we are willing to accept any Iraqi man or woman who is willing to accept these principles. Now, is our objective to overturn the current political structure in Iraq? Well, we're not here as an electoral list, and we have no intention to participate in the creation of a new government as such. We want to change the situation in the field, to be able to meet the demands of the Iraqi people across the board. And we're not hostile to anyone except those who are hostile to Iraq. And regarding the demonstrations, let me remind you that those who are demonstrating in the streets every Friday are 1,000 times better than we are in their actions, and we are supporting them as much as we can, and we're passing on their message to the rest of the world. You haven't answered my second question, sir. Well, are there any other questions? So, what is our position with respect to Daesh? As you know, it is a terrorist organization which has been able to access Iraq following the American invasion of Iraq in 2003 and the error committed by the United States in sending their troops. This international coalition was supposed to protect the Iraqi borders, but it didn't do so. And in fact, the Iraqi borders have been opened wide, and so these terrorist groups were able to infiltrate in the territory. And we should remember that these terrorists were also spread under the government of Nouri al-Maliki, which for 8 years committed all kinds of atrocities against the population. And it is this unprecedented period of injustice in Iraq opened the way to terrorism. And so we obviously refuse terrorism, and we want to free our country from any form of terrorism. We should not forget that aside from Daesh, there is the militias that are reporting to the Iranian regime. And so we're against terrorism, whatever its source. Any other questions from the press? En Salon from Le Monde, and I would like to know, what are you awaiting from the international community in organizing these steps that you're taking now? What is your objective overall? So what are we expecting from the international community? Well, we're simply asking them to really take the full measure of the Iraqi problem. Terrorism is a global problem. It's not purely Iraqi. It is certainly very present in Iraq in various forms. But it is a phenomenon that has come from abroad and has been able to flourish in Iraq because no one tried to put a cap on it. And the international community is now responsible for taking the Iraqi situation seriously once and for all. And we call on the international community to organize an international conference for Iraq. And it is the right of Iraq, because our problem is not fundamentally a domestic problem. It is a problem that is worldwide, and Iraqis alone cannot solve it. We must have the solidarity of the international community, and the international community must be able to extend a hand of friendship to Iraq and support us so that we can build a lasting peace. Any other questions?
What are you going to do, particularly? Sheikh Jamal.
الخطوة الأولى هنا في
Well, this meeting in Paris is a first step. The next step will be an invitation to the international conference that we are intending to organize to really look closely at the situation in Iraq. And we will be holding the first conference that was supposed to meet here with the participation of over 250 Iraqis. But many were unable to obtain their visa, and so we will be doing everything we can to organize this conference under the auspices of the international community. Any other questions? So there is another question, apparently. Hilal Mohammed and the Arte television channel. How do you intend to communicate with people inside Iraq? We know all the pressures being applied by the government on Iraqi nationals in Iraq. Well, we are already present inside Iraq, and we don't need to communicate in other ways. We travel in Iraq, we are there, and as I've said, the founding members of this national Iraqi project are Iraqis who are living in Iraq. And they have taken part in the decisions taken here. And they are the ones who will be translating the decisions taken here into hard facts in the field in Iraq. Do you have any other questions from the media, the press? Murdad Vadhai, France 24 TV channel. I'd like to just repeat my question. I had asked a question concerning a mechanism that would attract Iraqis. I'm not talking about the Iraqis who are already members of this Iraqi National Project, but the others. The Iraqis who are not at all familiar with the organization you're into, how are you going to mobilize them? How are you going to attract them so that they can actually participate and take part in your initiative? As I said earlier, we have an advisory entity and we have a central committee, and these two entities will be seeking to establish the first general meeting in the coming months in order to bring together all our members. And after that, we will be establishing a clear mechanism with a view to attracting all Iraqis. And of course, in the meantime, our movement remains open to all Iraqis, and they can establish contact with us, with the Central Committee, with the advisory body, and directly using all normal communication methods. By the fact that this movement has now come alive, we are beginning to see the light of the end of the tunnel. Sheikh Jabari Advari is very well known in Iraq, and all Iraqis know him. And Sheikh Al-Jamal is known in the south and in the north and in the center of Iraq. The Central Committee is also extremely inclusive of all trends in Iraq. People have come from the north, the south, the east, the west, and we are in constant contact with Iraqis inside Iraq. And inside Iraq, we know that many, many people were waiting for the creation of this meeting. And I would repeat that Sheikh Jamal Abdari, our leader, is a very respected personality in Iraq. Sheikh Jamal, would you like to add something, please? Well, if there are no other questions, I would like to thank all the journalists present here. Thank you for being here and for informing all the Iraqis about our movement. A last word from the representative of the Izbit inside Iraq. Thank you. Yes, we were waiting for the creation of such a movement since the invasion, the American invasion of Iraq in 2003. And we've chosen to create this moment now after the obvious failure of the Iraqi government and the Iraqi political process. And so the time has come now, and it's favorable for creating this movement. We invited over 300 known and respected Iraqi figures to come and establish this national Iraqi project. Our project seeks to include all the component parts of Iraqi society. And I would like to call on all Iraqis from now on to no longer designate other fellow Iraqis by their religious background or their ethnic background as a Yazidi or a Kurd or Christian or whatever. We have chosen Sheikh Jamal Advari because he has no political ambition. Everybody knows that. He's always someone who has been defending the interests of the Iraqi people. He is not a politician, and he is committed to defending all Iraqis. And I'd like to congratulate him for being elected at the head of this committee, and I'd like to also congratulate other members of the Central Committee. And I trust that the Sheikh will be guiding our organization with a lot of success. And I really do trust that we will be able to, at the general meeting, bring together all the founding members of this entity. We will be meeting, all being well, in 2 months' time, and we will be bringing together all Iraqis. All Iraqis are welcome. So congratulations to all Iraqis. The Central Committee brings together Iraqis from all backgrounds. And regarding what my colleague from Al Jazeera said regarding the Islamists, you said, are there any Islamists there? Well, Mr. Matfai, let things be clear. The Central Committee and our project brings together all Iraqis, all components, people from all backgrounds. And we are all considered Iraqis. We cannot be called anything else. In our movement, you have Muslims, Christians, Shiites, Sunnis, Kurds, Yazidi. And we also have the privilege of having many women in our movement. So our movement cannot be described as being religious or political.